We've hit on something that has to be in every single educational classroom.
I was going home much more relaxed, much more refreshed, and able to go on and do things after school and still feel fresh.
I wanted to change the environment and make all of those great ideas in curriculum successful in the classroom because everybody had access to them.
Campuses in our district that are using FrontRow are realizing continuous improvement in student achievement scores, frankly, across the board.
No doubt in my mind, when I first heard the system, it was a, oh my gosh. It was definitely an aha moment. We've hit on something that has to be in every single educational classroom. It makes such an incredible difference when you listen to it. It's easier to acquire your education. It really is easier. We've been using the FrontRow system here at Willow Creek for about 6 years now. It started when our speech therapist came to me and said that she had some research that she wanted me to look at about impacting the education for not just her special education kids, but all kids in the classroom environment. We started with one classroom, went to a second classroom, and once it caught on, it was like we couldn't get enough money soon enough to outfit the whole school. The kids understood and realized that they were hearing better when the teacher would turn the system off, just with a little switch. When she would forget to turn it back on, the kids would say, "Miss Yoakley, I need you to turn your system back on. Miss Yoakley, turn yourself back on." When the teachers walk away from the day and don't have a tired voice, and you determine that you don't have teachers that have laryngitis by the 4th week of school, it's an instant sell, not only to me, but the teachers. It's not a piece of curriculum, it's not even a piece of software that sits on the cabinet and doesn't get used. This is all day, every day of the school year. That's such a huge change to how we modify our environment to help children have a better advantage in the classroom. All kids. Not one or two, but all kids.
I started teaching a generation ago. Back then, what was asked of a kindergarten teacher was keep them happy through the day, have some fun, expose them to the alphabet, expose them to some numbers. What's expected of a kindergartner today is about what would have been expected of a mid to late first grader at the beginning of my career. So the work has gotten harder and the expectations have increased. The starting line has gone farther back and we need to get to the finish line more quickly. To teach children to learn how to listen is a very difficult thing to do if they cannot hear you. The voice amplification system that I use allows a child to hear me without my having to raise my voice. One of the great benefits of having a FrontRow system in your classroom is that you're able to stay in that sweet, low, calm, collected, unflappable voice all day long.
And look at it with his binoculars. Hear all those B sounds?
Yeah.
Boat, binoculars, boy.
If you happen to have a classroom with a moderate amount of noise and you need to make yourself heard without one, you're going to have to go into your raised voice mode and sound like you've lost it, even if you haven't. One of the dichotomies that teachers face is that children don't want to listen to a voice raised to the point that they could hear it, and they can't hear a voice that they might want a voice soft enough that they might want to listen to.
Look at the pop we hear in pool, pop, pop, pool, pop, pop, pool.
One of the things about the FrontRow system that got me interested in having it in my classroom in the first place is that I used to regularly go hoarse. So I knew that couldn't be good for my vocal health. It's sort of like, I don't know, a person who had to do a lot of heavy lifting having his back go out on him every year, 2 or 3 times a year. I just knew it wasn't good for my voice and I ought to do something about it. A big change I noticed once using the FrontRow system is that I would go home a lot more relaxed, a lot happier. There's some kind of a connection between constricting your voice and raising your voice to the point that you can be heard all day long, you sound, even if you're not feeling tense or irritable, you sound tense and irritable, and after a while, sounding that way makes you feel that way. I was going home much more relaxed, much more refreshed, and able to go on and do things after school and still feel fresh.
Anthony, Jaden, Calvin, Trev, Tyler McCarthy.
Teachers have an extremely difficult job. They're required to talk all day long. Some people have described in the literature that the classroom is a hostile environment when it comes to listening. That person is working so hard to be heard, to control the class, to keep the children on task, to keep the message clear. And what we find is teachers lose their voices. They gain vocal fatigue. By the end of the day, they're drained. And then they get to go home, have their family life, and come back and do it all over again. Material in the classroom is presented orally to children, a vast amount of it. They face the challenge of listening over the air conditioning units, the ventilation systems, the heating systems, our lights, computers. Noise gets in the way. We have acoustic ceilings. They're low. We have carpeting and limited windows. So I was always under the impression that we had a quiet learning environment for each of our children. But then when I started really looking at the environment and being in it, I noticed that there was a lot of noise in the room, an empty room with no children at all. So I borrowed a sound meter from our audiologist in the district, and I just kind of went through the classrooms getting a general idea of how noisy were our classrooms really. And they are well above the recommended levels for noise in a classroom. When we look at curriculum, our administration, our curriculum people, they're all very good at finding new kinds of ways to bring material to kids. They'll look at the greatest and latest books. They're going to find the best overhead projectors. They're going to look at the greatest way of presenting new material to kids. I wanted to change the environment and make all of those great ideas in curriculum successful in the classroom because everybody had access to them.
I have 29 students in my class, and it is very difficult because it's hard to get around to all the different students to make sure that they are understanding what you're teaching. The advantages to using FrontRow have been numerous. I can walk anywhere in the room and I know that everybody is going to be able to hear me the same because of the placement of the speakers in the ceiling. I know that they're all going to be listening and they're all going to be hearing the same thing rather than whichever person I'm standing close to. Before we used the FrontRow, the people I was standing next to, the students, could hear me better than the students across the room. But now I know that everybody is hearing everything the same. At first I was slightly skeptical. I wasn't sure if I would need it because I do have a loud voice and I didn't think I would need to use it, but I have found that I do like it and I did need to use it. My voice is but not as strained as it was before, and I really think the students benefit from having it. Some students have quieter voices, so when they're using the handheld microphone, they can project their voice a lot better and everybody can hear them as opposed to just their group or just the certain people that are sitting around them. Okay.
It's what you do.
Yeah, very good. Students are more willing to want to participate in discussions with the rest of the class. They want to use the handheld microphone because it's fun.
Yeah. So where would you push on the wheelbarrow?
So they just feel more confident in themselves, more comfortable being able to share in front of class, reading in front of class, participating in discussions.
Yeah. What about the word scurried, though? Who knows what scurried means? Who knows what scurried means?
I'm in my 5th year serving in the Humble Independent School District, and during, I believe it was the first month of my first year that school was in session, I visited one of our elementary schools, Willow Creek Elementary. And Willow Creek, I had learned, was the first of our schools to really try and put in place the front row system. I got to observe the front row system in action. And from the first moment I experienced it, it just made all the sense in the world to me. And really what captured my attention was how I observed the students in that classroom being engaged in that teaching learning process, and how their attentiveness, frankly, were like no other that I experienced. And I think I can say this very, very candidly, in any classroom I've ever visited over my career. So I started to inquire of the faculty here at Willow Creek more about Front Row and what it was and how did it work and so on and so forth, and left that campus visit just absolutely, as an educator, sold that this was something that could benefit every child in our school district. It's a very simple technology for teachers to use. I mean, it literally is a very simple microphone device and a throwing of the switch to put the device into action or out of action. I've witnessed and observed teachers and principals embracing Front Row quickly the moment they try it. Wow, I can speak naturally. I don't have to exert my voice. I don't even have to really think about or pay attention to, are the children hearing me? Books are important. Other instructional materials are very, very important. Library resources are important and certainly cannot be neglected. But in terms of getting the most bang for the limited buck that we have, I really want to put those dollars and advocate putting those dollars in things that make a difference between the teacher-child interaction, and I think that Front Row is a tool that does that. There's much more to learning, in my opinion, than just standardized test scores. But the reality is standardized test scores are important, and they are a major part of a student's learning. And campuses in our district that are using Front Row are realizing continuous improvement in student achievement scores, frankly, across the board. So for me, Front Row is a tool that teachers can use and are using in our school district to literally personalize that learning and engage every single individual child in that classroom. I have to say, just the name of the product, Front Row, just makes all the sense in the world to me, because no matter physically where you are, literally, in that classroom, you're in the front row.
One of the things about the Front Row system that I really didn't expect was how much interplay there seems to be between the quality of your voice and the quality of your heart, your open-heartedness. And I've found that the more easily I can speak with warmth and with kindness, that has not only an effect on the children, but it also has an effect on me. And the whole classroom warms up, and I go home happier. I know the kids do too.